Joining us now to discuss the peace deal between the United States and Iran is Rod Martin, geopolitical analyst and CEO of Martin Capital. Great to have you back, Rod. President Donald Trump announcing on his birthday, I might add, that a peace deal between the United States and Iran has been reached. Your reaction?
Well, I have to admit a bit of surprise. I didn't think they'd get it over the line today, but they did. And it's very clearly a win. The vice president couldn't have been clearer. And Pete Hegseth also. The terms here are effectively an Iranian surrender. No nuclear program, no toll booth on the Strait of Hormuz. Not that they had any way to enforce that in the first place. This is exactly what we set out to achieve. And it's very clear to me that the last 72 hours or so, when the Iranians were very much testing the blockade and testing our resolve, resulting in U.S. strikes on key locations in the country, it absolutely helped push this over to the line and do so in the correct time frame. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks as the details get negotiated, but this is a clear win.
Yeah, definitely a lot to watch here. Now, the Pakistani Prime Minister saying in a social media post, quote, both sides have declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. Are you confident this will hold?
No, not at all. And permanent is such a fun word. I mean, that's very aspirational. I hope very much that that is true. But, we already have hostilities at the moment in Lebanon that, have to go away. The Iranians have to rein in their proxy army, Hezbollah, which just rains missiles down into the north of Israel unendingly. For peace to hold, they're going to have to restrain that. There's no getting around it. Likewise, we're going to remove what President Trump calls the nuclear dust. And he was downplaying the timing on that. The reason isn't Iran. The reason is that this is going to be a Herculean technical operation. It's buried under a mountain, for heaven's sake. And there are really only two countries on earth that could even possibly attack this: the United States and China. We're certainly not going to let the Chinese go in and do it. So, there are a bunch of ways between now and a permanent resolution for this to go horribly awry. But as it stands, we have a win. We have what amounts to an Iranian surrender. And that's exactly what the president has been seeking from the beginning. If he wanted to do a bad deal, he'd have done it a month ago.
Yeah, and to your point, it's been a long, circuitous journey getting here. What's to stop things from remaining long and circuitous as we head towards a potential peace, if any at all? Now, we're expecting mediators to hold a series of meetings this week in preparation for the official deal signing on Friday. That's according to the Pakistani Prime Minister again. What could these meetings involve?
There's an awful lot to sort out. First and foremost, there's the nuclear program. Apparently, from what we're hearing bits and pieces of at this point, the Iranians may be permitted some reasonable commercial enrichment. That's not crazy. If you have 5% enriched uranium, you're in no danger of turning that into a bomb. Secretary Hegseth was also extremely clear. This is not trust but verify. We do not trust them at all, and we're going to verify everything. So we're going to have to work out the technical details of that verification process. That is a difficult thing to achieve, and it's not going to be good enough to do what the IAEA has done in the past that did not work. This is a lot more like the nuclear arms verification process that we engaged in with the Soviet Union at the end of the Cold War. That is difficult. It's complex. They're going to spend a lot of time meeting about this.
Rod, let's turn to oil. Of course, a very prescient topic. President Trump announcing the Strait of Hormuz is now open, toll-free, and that the U.S. blockade is over. How soon could that produce some relief at the gas pump for Americans?
Reasonably quickly. Now, the thing is, it's not a one for one deal. You got to understand, crude oil does not burn in your car. That's just not how that works. So you still have refining capacity issues. May take a minute for some of this stuff to ramp up. But the truth is, the United States gasoline prices that we're all unhappy about, but it's still lower than it was under Biden, and it's come down about 10% in the last week. Those US gasoline prices are more influenced ultimately by our relative lack of refining capacity, and we are moving forward on that. The truth is, we actually have most of the refineries in the world that can handle Venezuela's heavy crude. Bringing Venezuela back online means a lot more oil is flowing to those refineries, and that will get us some serious relief on gasoline. The other factor, of course, is just the coupling of domestic crude oil prices to the global market. WTI, West Texas Intermediate, is usually cheaper than Brent crude, which is the global benchmark, but they're still tied together. And this should give us some significant relief pretty fast.
And we'll definitely be following that very closely. How could this agreement with Iran impact President Trump's posture going into the G7 summit? I mean, that kicks off tomorrow in France.
Well, I suspect he's going to be a very happy man. He's also not going to be terribly happy with the degree to which our European allies were relatively useless. We are dealing with so-called partners who function as dependents, who do not pay their share of what has to be done to defend the alliance. And there are some real issues there. Another issue that's probably not on everybody's radar yet is that the French have come to realize that the Chinese are dumping into Europe in a huge, huge way that is highly destructive of European industry. The French Planning Agency actually described it as an outright deindustrialization of Europe over the next 10 years if Europe does not take a stand against massive Chinese overcapacity and dumping primarily into Europe now, because the president has taken care of that in the United States. So it's going to be interesting to see Donald Trump, the Japanese, and the French perhaps line up to a degree against Germany and a few of the others who are more interested in ongoing engagement and apparently deindustrialization of their own countries. That will get some interesting comments.
Okay, and Rod, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked about this week about his expectations for the G7 summit in terms of an end to the conflict in Iran. Here's what he said.
I just, if I may clarify, and I think I did say it this way, was that Canada prepared to contribute, and we remain prepared to contribute to, once the strait is open, to maintaining the opening of the strait and the guarantees in and around that, and there's various ways to do that. I expect, I'm hopeful, maybe is the best way to put this, that there will be additional progress in terms of establishing a cessation of hostilities and something for the G7 and the main countries from the region.
So just in closing here, Rod, what do you expect to come out of the G7 in regards to the conflict in the Middle East, which now could be over?
Well, I think Mark Carney gave us a preview. We're going to have some of our partners, so-called, step up and really want to take an active role in a war that's already resolved. You know, where was Mark Carney when we asked for minesweepers? Where was Mark Carney when we asked for a few frigates to help escort some oil tankers? Nowhere. And of course, the foreign minister of Germany, same deal. You know, this is not our war. Well, Ukraine is not our war. Serbia was not our war, but we were there and we are there. So, you know, there's going to be a whole lot of, oh, yeah, we're part of this too. And honestly, it's a bit laughable. And I don't think the president is going to be ungracious about it, but he's probably not going to let them off easily with it either. and we'll see what they can actually do. Now, the truth is they can be meaningfully helpful if they will actually send some ships that have the function either of minesweeping or of maintaining freedom of navigation in international waters. That would be beneficial. Love to have that, but it's a little late.
All right, geopolitical analyst Rod Martin, thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight.
Thank you.